Judge, my understanding of some of what Mr. Rabin's saying is that his defense is that Andrew Delke was following his training, same defense that Himmler used at Nuremberg, that Lieutenant Calley used in Vietnam, and now Andrew Delke is propounding to this court. But even their witness, Sergeant Allen, said that it was Delke's decisions that led to the pulling of that trigger and the shooting of Daniel Hambrick in the back and his killing. And he tries to paint this as a decision that's a binary, shoot or don't shoot. But it's not a binary decision, and it wasn't on that day. There were a number of options that were available. Andrew Delke could have taken cover. Andrew Delke could have let Mr. Hambrick go and let the Warrants Division, which is no secret, let the Warrants Division serve a warrant for whatever traffic offense had led to this, which I'll point out in a 2-hour interview, he never said what traffic offense he was going to turn the blue lights on for. He could have followed him from a distance and called for backup. Same as what he did when he was running. This was not a binary decision. This was not a shoot or don't shoot. The TBI interviewed Andrew Delke. Why does law enforcement do an interview of somebody who may have committed a crime? Well, you're looking for admissions, and you're also looking for inconsistencies. In that interview, there were a number of admissions that Andrew Delke made. He admitted that he did a knowing killing. He knew he was using deadly force. He pulled the trigger. He pulled the trigger 4 times. He kept pulling the trigger until the threat was eliminated, until Mr. Hambrick was a corpse laying on the ground. And only then, after he's already a corpse, does Mr. Delke then go and take cover. When he had plenty of opportunities, if this was such a threatening situation, to have taken some cover, but he chose not to. That's an admission. He admitted that it wasn't just a knowing killing, but that he had made decisions beforehand. He thought it through. He made a conscious decision to slow down and stop and aim and fire. And he made that decision before he even rounded the corner. And then when he got to a position on down some roughly 30 yards further down, that's when he decided he'd run far enough and he was going to go ahead and do what he had considered doing starting back at the corner. Those were his admissions. But what about the inconsistencies, and why are they important? Well, he says 2 days later, TBI asked him to give an interview that night. 2 days later, he comes in and gives an interview. 2 days later, he says to the TBI, oh yeah, Mr. Hambrick stopped in that area that's not on the video. He stopped and he turned to face me. His face was, I've got it right here. Just to make sure that I don't misquote it. Yeah. He turned his body towards me, his head turned completely toward me and looked directly at me, and the gun was pointed in my direction at that point. So in 1.9 to 2.4 seconds of time, he says that this man ran into this area that's not covered, this 12-yard area, stopped from a complete sprint, turned directly toward him and looked at him and pointed the gun at him, and then turned back around and started sprinting again and covered that distance in 1.9 to 2.4 seconds. Impossible. Now, why would you say something that's so obviously false? You say something that's obviously false. That's why you do an interview, because people who say things that are obviously false are conscious of their own guilt. That is not something that's exculpatory because he said something that's obviously wrong, that in fact serves as an admission that he knows that he has committed a criminal homicide. Video is also clear. Mr. Rabin says that Daniel Hambrick was the first aggressor. And yet the video shows Mr. Hambrick didn't do anything aggressive. He was doing everything he could to avoid a confrontation with Andrew Delke. He was running away as fast as he could, so fast that he tripped, so fast that he was going all the way around the corner and trying to do everything he could to not have an altercation with Andrew Delke. He didn't run toward him. He didn't wrestle him. He didn't strike him. He didn't threaten him. He didn't yell at him. He didn't do anything that would indicate any type of aggression. The video is also clear. As he's running away, as he's shot in the back, Daniel Hambrick never breaks stride. Never breaks stride. What does Andrew Delke do? What Andrew Delke does is he decides he's going to use deadly force. He makes a conscious decision. And what does he do? He slows to a stop. He assumes the isosceles position, and he starts pulling the trigger. What does Andrew Delke do? He doesn't take cover and start shooting because this guy's so dangerous. He doesn't shoot as he's running because he's afraid that it's so imminent. He doesn't even take a knee to reduce because he's afraid that somebody might turn and shoot him and try to reduce his surface area. No, he stands tall. He takes his time. He's making sure that these are going to kill Daniel. That's what he did. That's not somebody who's afraid of an imminent threat. You don't take your time, stand tall, and fire in an open position if there's some imminent threat. The state is asking you to bind over on criminal homicide. We're not asking you to determine what level of criminal homicide. Leave that up to the grand jury to make that determination, and ultimately a petty jury after they've heard the facts. But the bottom line is this. Any person in Davidson County who shoots someone who is running away from them, shoots them in the back and kills them, needs to be held accountable.
Thank you both.
All rise. This court is now adjourned.